You're all very welcome to our conference here today in London. Some of you have come from afar, the United States, France, Italy, Sweden, Norway, and of course Kurdistan and Iraq. These are just some of the places that we're aware of that our guests have come from. Some of you have probably only come from West London, but it took you just as long to make your way through the London traffic. I would like to welcome our two ministers from the Kurdistan Regional Government, Aram Mohammed Ahmed, the Minister of Martyrs and Anfal Affairs, and Falah Mustafa Bakr, the head of the Department of Foreign Relations. Also from the Iraqi Parliament, we are joined by a veteran of the Kurdish movement, Dr. Mahmoud Osman. And from Paris, we will be joined very shortly by Dr. Bernard Kouchner, the former French foreign minister and co-founder of Médecins Sans Frontières. We are fortunate that you have all found time to participate. I would like to also give an especially warm welcome to His Excellency, the Chargé d'Affaires at the Iraqi Embassy in London, who joins us today along with a number of his staff. There are many, many VIPs, and I recognize that, so I do apologize that I'm not naming everybody, but it would take all day. Over a year ago, we discussed hosting a conference in London in January 2013 to kick off a year that sees a convergence of significant anniversaries of events that have had an immense impact on the people of Kurdistan in Iraq. It's not only the 25th anniversary of the poison gas attack on Halabja and the Untold genocide campaign. It's also the 30th anniversary of the abduction and killing of men and boys from the Barzani clan, and the 10th anniversary of the West's intervention in Iraq, which we Kurds refer to as the liberation. And today, January the 17th, marks the 22nd year since Operation Desert Storm, which triggered a sequence of events that eventually led to the Kurdish uprising in 1991 and Kurdistan's first breath of freedom. Apart from noting this unusual coming together of memorable dates, we see this conference as an opportunity to reveal the horrific crimes that the Kurdish people have fallen victim to since the 1960s, to tell the secret story of life under Saddam Hussein's brutal dictatorship, to give the victims and survivors a voice, and to have a debate on the issues that surround genocide. How is genocide legally defined? What role did the Kurdish diaspora play in raising awareness of the atrocities in their homeland at that time, and what is the diaspora's role today? What can we do to prevent other genocides? How can we ensure that those who helped the perpetrators or profited from those crimes are brought to justice? What lessons can be learned from experts, NGOs, survivors of other genocides? What are the challenges to legal and political international recognition? It is with these questions in mind that we decided to host the first international conference in Britain on the Kurdish genocide. Over the past few months, some great strides have been taken towards international recognition. We are privileged that today we will hear from the Norwegian Deputy Speaker of Parliament and an important Swedish Member of Parliament from the governing coalition about how their parliaments have recognized the Kurdish genocide. As many of you know, a petition has been launched in the UK by a Kurdish-born British Member of Parliament, Nadim Zahawi. This is an online petition calling on the British government's website. It calls on the British government to recognize these atrocities suffered by the Kurds as genocide. We have actively supported the petition, and I'm pleased to say that over 26,700 people have signed it. While this is far short of the 100,000 target that was set, it is nevertheless a remarkable achievement. If the petition were to close today with no more signatures, it would rank 16th in terms of the number of signatures gathered out of a total of 6,345 petitions that are currently open on the website. I hope you will agree that this is indeed an achievement for the Kurdish community in Britain and for the many British supporters who have in Parliament, the media, in Parliament, the media and academic circles. I would like to thank all those who have supported this campaign, which continues until March. And one of the key supporters has been Robert Halfon, a Member of Parliament who's sitting here. Yesterday, the petition received a response from the British government because we had amassed more than 10,000 signatures. We are pleased that the government response acknowledges the systematic persecution and oppression of the people of Iraq under Saddam Hussein, and that no group suffered more than the Kurds. The British government condemns the use of chemical and biological weapons and says that responsible countries consider their ongoing production, stockpiling, or use to be completely unacceptable. The government response says that the UK is committed to its friendship and partnership with the people of the Kurdistan region, including those who are resident in the UK, and to work with them for a secure and prosperous future. It adds that the UK will continue to call for all countries to respect minority rights and for the full implementation of the Chemical Weapons Convention. So far, so good, and indeed very welcome. However, one cannot hide one's disappointment that the official response to the petition also says that it is the British government's view that it is not for governments to decide whether a genocide has been committed in this case, as this is a complex legal question. The government says where an international judicial body finds a crime to have been genocide, then this will often play a part in whether Britain will recognize it as such. We all know the length of time and the considerable effort that is needed to have international trials for genocide and crimes against humanity. The British government's view comes despite the Iraqi High Tribunal, the Presidential Council, and the Iraqi Parliament having endorsed the definition of genocide in relation to what happened to the Kurds. So we register our disappointment. However, we also take heart both from the level of support and interest there has been among the public who have signed the petition, and from the British members of Parliament who continue to support this cause. We do not give up, and we will continue to gather signatures and to do our best to put the spotlight on the Anfal, Halabja, and the other crimes committed against our people. The MPs who support this campaign are still hopeful that a debate may be possible in the British Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, as we look around the Middle East today, we see much to be concerned about, including the situation in Syria. The slaughter of people, including children, while the international community hesitates as to how to respond, brings back memories of those similar events in Iraqi Kurdistan not so long ago. Of course, it is not easy for a country to intervene in another country's strife, but surely the international community has a responsibility to protect people who have no defense against a well-armed dictatorship that does not hesitate to use violence to suppress dissent. Since we announced this conference, 3 Kurdish women activists were assassinated in Paris. They worked for Kurdish rights, and their murder reminds us that even today, in the heart of Western Europe, Kurds are not safe. Sadly, our history is interspersed with assassinated leaders and activists. Yet few Kurds think to give up the struggle for Kurdish rights or evade the duty to remember and honor those who have been killed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a bright London morning, and yet we are speaking of dark matters. The subject of this conference shows the dark side of humanity, the side that we would all prefer not to know about because it's just too grim to bear. Yet time and again, listening to the survivors and eyewitnesses to the horrors of gas, poison gas, imprisonment, torture, assassination, and mass murder, we hear of small gestures of kindness that lifted the spirit of someone who was in utter despair. We hear of the risks that people took to save a stranger's life, as is the case of the Shia Arab family that sheltered a Kurdish boy, Teymur, after he escaped from a pit full of dead bodies. We also see the survivors' desire to forge a better future for their children and to spread the word of peace. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that this conference will not only make us listen and help find answers, it will also help us to gain inspiration for a better future. Thank you very much.